Welcome back to Gloves Are Off. We're going to be talking Oilers right now, and I mean, they really started things off with the draft. They took Draisaitl third overall, and then they traded Gagne and signed a bunch of free agents. So just where do you guys think the Oilers are at after all this activity?
They're definitely a better team than where they were at, but if you look at what happened with the Western Conference in the last couple of days, week or so, they're not any better than where they're going to be. I think they're going to be still that bottom team, unfortunately, because the whole entire Western Conference got so much better. They added a lot of size, which is what they needed. They had a lot of experience. Guys like Pouliot, Keith Ollie. I think they improved. They just need to start fleshing out some other parts of the roster.
Their bottom six definitely improved as far as their defensemen go. Adding Ollie, adding Fane. You don't need to rush Marinson into the lineup. You don't need to rush Nurse into the lineup. You don't need to rush Clefbaum into the lineup. So it'll buy those guys, some time in Oklahoma City where they can develop, they can prosper under Nelson, and hopefully be ready 2 years down the road as far as the Oilers defense core goes. And
now specifically, I just want to focus on the Gagne trade. For years, people have been saying trade Gagne for somebody big, trade Gagne for a defenseman. They ended up trading Gagne over to Tampa Bay for Teddy Purcell, who's a big right winger. So just what do you guys think of that trade?
I like that he's a right winger. He's physical. He's big. He's a good Canadian kid. He played well in Tampa Bay. I think he'll do well playing with the guys that hopefully Edmonton puts him with.
I just hope he can do well, because now you have that whole stigma of I've traded St. Gagne for this is what we got. Did they get the value for him? I like the trade too. I think Teddy Purcell is going to be a great player in Edmonton, and what they need.
Just staying with the Oilers, one last thing. Just Mac T's been in he's got about a full season now, if you include from when he got to now. And just what do you think of the job he's been doing and kind of how he's forming the Oilers?
So far, you can't complain what he's done. He's gotten rid of a lot of the dead weight. He's brought in some good, role players, and this is what this team needs. You got your main guys like Yakupov and Hopkins, Hall, Eberle. You got them. You need to. It's the rest of the roster you got to start filling out, and he's done that job of bringing in guys like Perron and now Pouliot and Keith Ollie. So now he's starting to fill out the roster, which is what that team's always needed.
The one thing is those young guys have some experienced guys around them. Pouliot going to the Stanley Cup final last year. I mean, he didn't do a pile in the regular season with the Rangers, but having that experience of playing the Cup final, Ollie's a good, Saskatchewan kid, defenseman, played in the World Juniors. So, I mean, these guys have big game experience that the young guys can hopefully learn a little bit from.
Perfect. All right, staying with the Edmonton sports teams, we'll just quickly touch on the CFL. The Eskimos opened up week one with a win in BC. That was a pretty impressive win, especially with the way the defense played. I mean, they had 5 turnovers, 4 interceptions. Do you guys think the Eskimos are for real, or was kind of just a one-off?
I think they're for real. I think they're going to surprise a lot of teams in the West. The one concern I have is Mike Riley going to be healthy? Because that's always a telltale sign. If your quarterback's not healthy, he gets injured, what's going to happen to the rest of the team? So if they can keep him upright in the pocket, if he can stand up, if he can not have the amount of pressure he had last year, I think they're going to be the biggest surprise in the whole CFL.
And so far he did well. I think he's second or third in the league for passing. So I think he got sacked 3 times or so. So that's a little bit. But, yeah, they're still a good team.
Yeah, the one thing about Riley, I will say I do like the heart and the determination he plays with, but he does put himself once in a while in a few dangerous positions.
Yep.
And he doesn't like to slide, which I'm not a big fan of. You should be sliding if you're a QB. But anyways, the Riders we'll move on to. They also got a big win in week one, a Grey Cup rematch when they hosted Hamilton. Just what do you think about the Riders, and do you think they're as good now that they don't have Dressler or Sheets?
I think it's going to be, you got to wait a few more games to see. I was impressed with Allen as far as his running, but I mean, I think you could put any guy behind that O-line and they're going to get 100 yards. So we'll wait and see.
And it shows how good their defense is. They've kind of maybe switched and went from being an offensive last year, now a massive defense, 10 sacks and under 200, about 200 yards they allowed. So this is a brand new team, and I think, can't look at what happened last year and look at what they're going to do this year. Yes, you got to wait a couple more weeks to see if this is the team that can go back and repeat again.
Okay, and just after week one, I mean, it seemed like the West pretty much dominated the East. Just who do you guys think is, the favorites heading in, one in the East, one in the West?
Jeez, I went last week with the Riders. I'll still go with the Riders. I think they show with the defense. If you have that kind of defense wins championships. I think it's going to be the same here. Can I just keep going with the Red Blacks out of the
always the
Red Blacks? They're in their first place right
chance.
now, but no, I don't think it matters out of the East. But I'll say Hamilton turns it around.
I would love to see a Saskatchewan-Winnipeg Grey Cup. I think it would be awesome. I think it'd be Banjo Bowl Part 3, whatever title you want to give it. I think it'd be a great atmosphere down in Vancouver.
And it'd be nice to see Willie go against the Riders in his first year starting. So we'll just wrap it up on this here with the Wimbledon. Canadians doing big things, both Genie Bouchard and Milos Raonic now into the semifinals. Just what do you guys think of Canadians' performances so far in the tennis season?
I love it. I think it's awesome. I think it's going to open some doors as far as these young kids that watch Bouchard and Raonic compete in these major events. Bouchard's been in the semifinals now the last 3 majors. Raonic has dominated. The one disadvantage Milos has is you got Nadal, you got Federer, you got Murray, you got Djokovic. You have all these guys that have been around for a few years, whereas Bouchard's blossoming at the perfect time because some of the women that are on the tour right now are kind of getting up in the age and injuries are creeping up. So she's steamrolling everybody at the perfect time, whereas Raonic has a little bit longer of a road to climb to get to the top.
Yeah. And everybody loves the fact that they're Canadians, and I've said this before, that it's not the fact that they're Canadian tennis players, they're good tennis players, and it helps that they're Canadian because it is growing the sport, but the fact they are that good at tennis. We're not talking about Canadians who are good and they're ranked 50th or 100th. These are, Raonic is 8th, Jeannie's 13th. These are good players, and that's going to open up doors more in Canada for tennis.
I will say I have a lot of friends who are not tennis fans, but whenever one of those two are playing, they make sure that they're watching, which is, I think, kind of the feeling that it's kind of sweeping the country as well, which is always good to see because anytime a new sport, or not a new sport, but more of a fringe sport gets more attention, I'm always a fan of that. We're going to take a little break, though, because we have to pay some bills, so we'll be right back with more Gloves Are Off.